Hi guys, well this is my first episode of Small Talk. So what I've basically been doing is just hanging about and reading some of the lovely questions from you guys. I really appreciate, engaging. It's really kind of fun. So what I'm going to do is basically just go through and answer some of the questions. I'll do like 5 per video or whatever, and wait a couple hours and do them as we go. So yeah. Anyway, so Karen wants to know, how did I cope in school? Well, I grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, and I went to Lakewood Elementary School, and it was kindergarten to year 6, and there was a visually impaired kid in the school, and there was me, and so we're the only different ones, and I had a fantastic elementary school. I mean, the teachers were great. I feel very fortunate growing up in Winnipeg because they had this thing called the Society of Manitobans with Disability. And every year I went into school, they would come send like somebody to do an assessment, and they would measure me to make sure I could reach I could have step stools for the water fountains to my desk if I needed any things to help me in school. And of course, Winnipeg is very cold in the winter. So I only lived a couple of blocks away from my elementary school, but in the winter I couldn't walk. So they arranged for the school bus to pick me up, and I got picked up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. Before the school buses would head out of the city to pick up the country kids, they would come pick me up, drop me off outside Lakewood Elementary School, which was 3 blocks away from my house, at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And Mr. Rigsby, who was the Lakewood janitor, and good thing he was a very lovely man and didn't do anything dodgy. He would he would snowplow from the front of the school all the way to the front. It was like this huge long walkway, and the school bus would dump me literally in the snowbank, and I had to wait for Mr. Rigsby, the snowplow, to come get me, and then I would go into school with him, and nobody else was there, just me and the janitor. And I would go around. He would put me on this little cart, and the box of chalkboard erasers were on it. And I would sit on the cart, and we would go around and pick up all the chalkboards, brushes, and then we'd go in a dark room together. And I would basically help him clean the brushes. And I actually have so many really fond memories. He was a lovely man. I know I went to school with some of his relatives, Barb Rigsby and Derek, I believe. Anyway. And then the principal, I can't remember her name, at Lakewood, she would show up, and then I would have to go sit in the principal's office in my own room. I got hot chocolate, and I'd have to do my homework. And I remember just being so tired all the time, and I get in trouble for falling asleep, but it was like I was at school 2 hours before everybody else. But anyway, coping-wise, I just had lots of friends. I was very social. My elementary school was great. Then I went to 7th grade. We moved, because my parents got divorced when I was younger, and we moved to I went to Alexander Ross Junior High School, which was 7th grade, and that was a whole different ball game. That school was very violent, aggressive. I got bullied a lot. Kids would throw my bikes up onto the roof. The bicycle was my way to get to and from school. Kids were very hateful there. I didn't enjoy it. That was probably my worst year of school. And then my mom got remarried, and I moved sort of the other side of the tracks in a way, to an area called Westwood, and more affluent. And yeah, I had a good group of friends there. I didn't really enjoy high school so much. It was very cliquey, and if you weren't wearing the right designer clothes and shit, just didn't fit in, and I couldn't exactly get designer clothes on this body. However, my aunt, or somebody in my family, used to be a seamstress. Old Ukrainian ladies used to sit around and do a lot of sewing, which was great if you couldn't get clothes. So she would, I can't remember her name now, darn it. She would make me jeans. So she would sew me jeans, and then she would take labels off like Jordache jeans, and she put them on my jeans. So I felt like I was included. Very, very cool. I have to ask my mom what her name was. I can't remember. Anyway, that was one question, so I'm just gonna maybe just leave it at that. I tend to ramble. So thanks, Karen. What a great question. I'll probably end up doing follow-ups on that again. But all right, guys. Thanks. I'll add some more questions, answer some more questions soon. Thank you. That was my first episode of Small Talk.